Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog. Because I record these videos a day before you see them, of course you already know the big news, but just to make it official, here is the headline. Israel and UAE, that would be United Arab Emirates, reach historic peace deal, Israel to suspend annexation. Israel and the United Arab Emirates reached a historic peace deal on Thursday that will lead to a full normalization of diplomatic relations between the two Middle Eastern nations in an agreement that U.S. President Donald Trump helped broker. Now, the article that I just gave you the headline from, I linked to it. I always link, unless I forget, I link to articles that I quote. So in that article is embedded a joint statement from the three parties, Israel, the Emirates, and us, the United States of America. I'm just going to read a couple of excerpts from it because it gives you the gist of what this agreement is. It really is truly historic, and it's actually going to be kind of, well, there's going to be, I put these little memes at the end of every vlog, so you're going to see one from Scott Adams. He's the creator of the comic strip Dilbert. He pretty well sums it up. You'll see when I get to it at the end of the vlog. But it's going to be interesting to watch the mainstream media, the liberal media, try to bury this story. It really is historic. I'm going to talk tomorrow about how historic it is, but for now, let me just give you the basic gist of the agreement. Delegations from Israel and the United Arab Emirates will meet in the coming weeks to sign bilateral agreements regarding investment, tourism, direct flights, security, telecommunications, technology, energy, healthcare, culture, the environment, the establishment of reciprocal embassies and other areas of mutual benefit. And that embassy part is going to be interesting too. I'm going to be interested to see where the Emirates put their embassy, whether they put it in Tel Aviv or whether they put it in Jerusalem. If they put it in Jerusalem, that will really say a lot. As I said a moment ago, it's really hard to overemphasize, I don't think you can, how historic this agreement is. Because I saw the press conference today that Trump held in the White House, had all the parties that helped negotiate the deal in the office with him. They all spoke, and one of the things that Trump said, and Netanyahu said also, I saw another speech by Netanyahu in Israel, that this looks like it's just the beginning, that with the Emirates having broken the ice, that other Arab states will start joining the club. The number who join, that is going to further illustrate how historic this agreement is. In fact, I saw another article talking, well, it's not about anything that's necessarily happening. It could be happening, though, under the table, behind the scenes, because who knew that this was coming between Israel and the Emirates? I knew that it's no big secret that they were working behind the scenes, that they had good relations, but this public announcement, and in the coming weeks, there's going to be a signing ceremony in the White House. It'll be interesting to see who shows up, whether Netanyahu and the Crown Prince of the Emirates, if they show up personally to sit side by side and sign this agreement and shake hands. That is really going to be earth-shattering. You'll have to forgive me if I gush about this, but you have to understand that one of my closest friends is an Arab, and we always talk about Middle East peace, and we get along so well together, as do so many other Jews and Arabs, Jews and Muslims in the United States, and it's so sad that it can't be that way all across the Middle East. That's why I guess I'm especially touched by this. But again, just from an objective point of view, this is really important. Now, the flip side of all those items I just listed, the embassies, investment, tourism, etc., etc. And well, I have to make another aside because this is going to be interesting and historic and earth-shattering too when you have Arabs from the Emirates coming to Israel. For them, it's going to be wonderful for them to pray in the Al-Aqsa Mosque, but they're also going to be able to go anywhere they want within Israel to meet not just Israeli Jews, but Israeli Arabs and get to know them. And then Jews will be visiting. They already are actually not Israelis per se, but Jews go to the Emirates and so do Christians. And one of the Emirates, I forget which, I think it's Abu Dhabi, I'm not going to say, I don't know which country it is, which state, it's one of them, could be more than one, but they have these malls and they have Christmas celebrations. It just shows that the relations have been good between Jews and these Emirate countries for a long time. It's just Israel, but now that is changing. Now, on the flip side of this historic agreement, as a result of this diplomatic breakthrough and at the request of President Trump with the support of the United Arab Emirates, Israel will suspend declaring sovereignty over areas outlined in the president's vision for peace and focus its efforts now on expanding ties with other countries in the Arab and Muslim world. The United States, Israel, and the United Emirates are confident that additional diplomatic breakthroughs with other nations are possible and will work together to achieve this goal. So the Arab countries got something in return because they wanted to make peace with Israel, and this application of sovereignty or prospective application of sovereignty over certain parts of Judea and Samaria and the Jordan Valley part of Judea and Samaria, that was a sticking point. It's a fair trade. It's a good trade, I think. And at the press conference where Netanyahu made the statement that I told you about a moment ago, he took questions from the press and he got a lot of pushback from the press, especially from the right-wing press in Israel, saying, well, you made this promise to apply sovereignty over these areas. Now you're breaking your promise. And he said, no, I'm suspending. I intend to apply sovereignty at some future date. But I also said that I would only do it in alignment with the United States. It's Trump's peace plan, and obviously we are a major player. So Trump requested that Israel not go forward with the sovereignty, and I think it was a good thing to ask. I just have compliments all up and down the line for President Trump. He really did something fantastic for which he deserves a lot of praise, and this is going to be actually my next vlog. What I want to now get to, the point I want to make now that you have this background, is here is this other headline. Palestinians fume over Israel-UAE deal. Palestinians from across the political spectrum on Thursday strongly condemned the normalization agreement between Israel and the United Arab Emirates, UAE, dubbing it a betrayal of Arabs and Palestinians. Many Palestinians and Arabs took to social media to express outrage over the agreement, with some calling it a, quote, new Nakba, which is the Arabic word for catastrophe, unquote. They also used a variety of pejoratives against the Gulf state and its leaders, including the, quote, United Zionist Emirate, unquote, and, quote, dogs, unquote, and, quote, traitors, unquote. Others referred to the announcement as a, quote, Black Thursday for Arabs and Palestinians, unquote. First of all, well, I'll get to the main point in a second, but I just have to mention here, because I told you one of my best friends is an Arab, and he has a dog. He has a dog named Maxie that he likes very much. I'm not going to reveal the dog's last name to protect Maxie's privacy. But if you know anything about Arab culture, or much about it, you know that in that culture in Arabia, dogs are unclean. They're considered unclean. I understand it's because Muhammad didn't like dogs. So if you're a devout Muslim, or at least Arab, you're not supposed to like dogs. The point being that the worst thing that you could call somebody, the worst insult, at least to my knowledge, in an Arab country, Arab Muslim country, is to call somebody else a dog. So that is a real strong pejorative among all these other pejoratives. I guess Zionist would be number 2. But the main point I want to get to is when the Palestinians say it's a betrayal of Arabs and Palestinians. I wonder how you say in Arabic, what do you mean we, paleface? Because this is the whole point. The Arabs, the other Arab countries, they want warm relations with Israel. They understand that the Palestinians have had every chance to make peace. They further understand that the Palestinians' demands are absurd. And well, whether they think they're absurd or not, they are demands that Israel will never meet. Israel is not going to divide Jerusalem. They're not going to abandon the Jordan Valley. They're not going to uproot, as they did in Gaza, hundreds of thousands of Israeli settlers. They're just not going to do it, and they are certainly not going to let millions of descendants of Arab refugees who fled in the 48 war, let them flood back into Israel and completely change the character of the country. It's just not going to happen. The Arabs are finally fed up. They are finally fed up, and they are just leaving throwing the Palestinians under the bus. That is what they are doing, to put it in American terms. And that gets me to my main point, the point that is in the title that I gave this vlog, that the peace train is leaving the station. The peace train between Israel and Arabs throughout the Middle East is leaving the station. It's up to the Palestinians now to decide whether they want to be on that train or be left in the station holding a bag of nothing. And the decision for all of you is whether to give me a thumbs up if you like this video, share it with anybody you think would also like the video. Got comments? There's a comment section below the video where you can also put questions, suggestions for future topics. If you could subscribe, that would be another really momentous historic decision that you can make for me personally. But most of all, come back and see me again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.